don't think you can avoid controversy. There's always going to be some disappointed people. But I think we can make it as good or better than any of the other prizes that exist if we focus on very solid criteria, on high-level community, and on a very fair and transparent process. The next speaker is Dr. Heydrich.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to raise a very practical question about the selection of the potential candidates. How should it be done? By application by the candidate himself or by recommendation by someone? And who would be qualified to make such recommendation? An institution, an individual, or some particular organization? Who qualifies? And discussing about the accomplishments versus potential. The potential, I think, should be judged on some accomplishments if we are to discuss the potential. And I think it's obligatory to have an interview with the candidate in the last stage of the selection, because only selecting from papers and reputation is not enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Some helpful suggestions on making the process as transparent and helpful as possible. Next, Mr. Zhao. Dr. Zhao, sorry.
Thank you very much. Just now everybody have talked about a lot about the materialized science development. I think I have another idea. Why not setting up something unique? Not only another Nobel Prize. In the past 7 sessions of Global Roundtable, most of the time we are discussing about sustainability of society. And today's topic is improving human societies. It's part of it. Improving human society relies on 2 support systems. One is materialized science, one is social science or spiritualized science. But for the materialized science, it's easy to check with quantitative measures. It's easy to do that. But for spiritualized, which is the main support for the development of human society throughout years, it's very difficult to measure. So what I suggest is we do something in this area. Spiritualized materials or spiritualized prize can make society to develop in a more harmonized way, but it's so difficult. For example, those people who are unique, who have special talents in spiritualized, are living mostly in temples, in churches, and especially those persons who know more, who speaks less. It's a very challenging job, but I'm sure that UNESCO has some idea, experience about this. So if there's a Chinese, another thing that, for example, the Chinese medicine, just give an example, nobody understands, but it works. It's something between science and spiritual. Why not do something like this? Or there's a very old Chinese book saying, we can develop the world, develop the modern technology, materialize modern technology under the control, under the concept of the law of the universe, which is called in Chinese ancient time, we call it Tao. Taoism means the law of the universe. So in this case, why China in history not developing the technology too much because they have this concept. It controls the technology to develop under the control of the law, which result in the sustainability, which makes civilization last longer. So the last is my suggestion is to choose this kind of topic as a kind of discussion for future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for reminding us of the ancient Chinese concept of the harmonies. I think just as I think it's very relevant, and I'm just saying this because 1 month ago I was at a meeting organized by the Secretary General of the UN and the King of Bhutan on developing a measure of gross national happiness. Now you may laugh at this, but this is very serious. 111 countries were in the room and everybody agrees that just because it's easy to measure material outputs, it doesn't mean it's correct. So everything is measured in terms of GDP, but it's not making people happy, and it's the intangibles that you mentioned. So that is a challenge. Maybe this prize can stimulate that kind of thinking too. So that's worthwhile. Thank you. Next person. Sorry. The next is Dr. Latigan.
Yeah, thank you. 3 remarks on the criteria and 1 suggestion for the committee. I think we are making progress in finding a unique or a very specific niche for the prize. What was interesting, and this is the first remark, that the concept of genius is still intact. It is now being interpreted in very specific ways to emphasize the innovation side of it, the newness of ideas, and I think that might be a focal point for the criteria of the committee. But I think what I see emerging is a greater recognition of the complexity of the situation we find ourselves, and moving from a uniform to a multiplicity way of thinking in 2 ways. The one is insisting on the transdisciplinarity or between the edges, and I think that could be a very important niche, that this prize focuses on the borders between disciplines, fields, interests, and make that the focal point. In negative terms, the criteria would be to award this to somebody who's working in more than 1 field. I think that's the way to do it. And that does not discredit the specialization of a specific field. My argument would be the best transdisciplinary work comes from deeper specialists, but who are able to communicate their findings to a wider audience. So I think the criteria of more than 1 field. But and that's the second remark, you have indicated very clearly, it is also the matter of the impact, and I like the word footprint. And if you can indicate there that that footprint means also spanning more than 1 field, you have a criteria that the committee can work with and say, does it also impact on the social dimensions, on the economic or the environmental, whatever. But I think it would be difficult to say it must do it all in equal ways, but there again, the principle of a complex criteria recognizing the multiplicity would be very valuable. So I think we are making progress in that direction. My suggestion is, and where we have the problem is the question of potential and achievement. We haven't really cracked that nut. Can I be heroic and maybe following what was suggested, why not think not only of a 2-stage, but of a 2-tier? Just hear me out. The Fields Medal has been hugely instrumental in mathematics, and that's awarded to somebody who has not reached the age of 40. And why not think, and this prize also of the possibility of having a category, and it might be a smaller one, where you award and encourage and inspire to use your terms, well, inspire and enable these potential geniuses. But then have the main prize, I think we'll have to base that on the recognition of achievement. So this is, I know, very theoretical, but why not think in a more complex way and doing both sides? And I think that can be both sides or both categories can be done with integrity and with a practical way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think both major points are very helpful. The first one, of course, transdisciplinarity builds on the consensus that seems to be emerging. But your second point is really an original one, whether we should separate out the potential from the ones who have achieved in terms of having two prizes, one for a younger person and one for a man. I think it's very helpful, and I think others will comment on this. The next, Lily Chen.
Couple of comments. When we talk about transformation and footprints, it in essence already transcends scientific and social impacts. And if we use the terminology of transformative footprints, we don't have to argue whether it is scientific or it is social. For example, take Steve Jobs. You may think it is scientific, but at the end of the day, for many of us who are not in science, we are already using the technology. It's essentially changed the way we all communicate. If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, who's 28 years old, he's essentially, though not many of you, I'm not sure how many are on Facebook, he's essentially changed the whole social fabric structure of how people communicate. So I think transformative footprints, I'm not saying these are the right people, but I think I'm just trying to get away from the thinking of, is it scientific, is it technical, is it social? So at the end of the day, the criteria is what is the phrase that we want to use. We talked about the concept of an enduring award, and I take that to mean it will be beyond my time here on Earth. And if it is beyond my time on Earth, then I'd like to hear what a 20-something-year-old would think of. I'd like to hear what a teen would think of, because they're living in a world that we already are starting not to be able to understand. And I think some perceptions and some thoughts coming from this generation would be quite important. And enduring also means we are talking about jobs and further innovations, further transformative changes in the years to come on things that we've not even thought of today. There has been an article written, not quite recently, that in 10 years' time, we don't even know how to advise the young people what career choices they have to go to. So I think I'd like us to not forget this group of people when we use the word enduring. I think Mohan brought up the concept of economic, social, environmental impacts. Again, coming back to the booklet of using transformation of footprints, I think it would encompass all these concepts. Thank you.
Thank you. We're really getting down to a more pinpoint discussion, and these are very useful ideas. I'd like also people to perhaps make some suggestions on how we bring in young people's viewpoints into this, because eventually, I mean, one always thinks of the committee as a series of older men and women, but I think this is a very valuable suggestion. How do young people's viewpoints be taken into consideration? Christina Benson.
Thank you. I assume from the discussion so far and from the proposition of this gathering that we are talking about a global prize. We haven't really discussed that. When coming here, I thought first that it was Europe that it was all about, because Tesla was European and Europe definitely needs good, innovative social leadership. But I assume that it's a global prize we're talking about. And if it is, it becomes even more important and trickier to define the rules, how to design the process of of identifying the laureates. Because I believe that just the committee, it might be a very talented and broad and wise committee, but it won't suffice to have just a committee. You need to work in a network of institutions, think tanks, NGOs, all over the world, to get the help, the input, to identify the best projects according to the criteria that the committee finally has decided upon. Because we would succeed in doing that today. The committee will take work on and come to a conclusion. And this conclusion will then be spread to partners all over the world. I assume that that must be the case. And then we could also include young people among these institutions or NGOs or whatever, think tanks, that become partners. So we get this broad selection process. And I believe that this is also the way that the alternative Nobel Prize is, or I know that they're working this way, that the alternative Nobel Prize, they have these nodes of collaborators all over the world. And that is the Nobel Prize, which is not the Nobel Prize, of course, that our prize would resemble the most, except for the Peace Prize, of course. But all the other Nobel Prizes, there are no comparison, because we're not talking about natural sciences. We're talking about social science, we're talking about transformative sciences, transdisciplinary sciences or knowledge, and we're talking about not only scientists, we're talking about people who make differences in the world. So the way, I think also, like Mr. Chen said, that we are coming to some conclusion about the economic and social and ecological impact, and that we have to strike that balance between achievement and potential. And it could be both. It could be either way, it could vary, I believe, over time. The alternative Nobel Prize, Jakob von Uexküll, who has founded that prize, I think they are focusing more on achieving what has been achieved so far. But we could strike the other balance more. But that is being discussed. But to work in a network, that I think is the most important part. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing out some of the ways in which this prize could be unique and different from the other prizes. I think Ulrich has some announcement to make.
I'm sorry, it's just a very brief announcement, and so that there's not too much, how should we say, frustration around it. Nobody's been jumped over. When I've seen you, you're on the list. There's currently a waiting list of 12 people. Right, so if you put yourself up, that's fine, but just be a little bit patient. I'm not forgotten you. We're going through it. There are others who are just a little bit quicker than you were. So that's how it goes to it. Okay, Terry.
I'm sorry if I mispronounce these names, but the next is Sean Turnbull.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your introductory remarks inspired me to write down a single sentence as a suggested criteria for awarding the prize, and it's a practical idea that it proves prosperity of all humankind for all future generations while preserving the quality of the environment, its fauna and flora. So it's based on an idea rather than a person, and so the idea could be initiated by an individual, which Tony suggested, a team. My colleague here provides a vision and a mission for what the purpose is. It meets the objectives on our name tags of building tomorrow together, and it adds a new criteria to the three mentioned earlier on. So just a single sentence objective which lay people around the world can look at. It will transcend the Nobel Prizes because it preserves humanity on the planet. It introduces systems thinking that Dr. Brown mentioned that we need to introduce, and he educated us this week that the carrying capacity of the planet is only about 500 million people, and we've got to address those issues on sustainability which you remarked from your Rio experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's very valuable. I think we should reserve that verbatim and use that as a basis also for defining this. Just apropos your other remarks about humanity, I think there are various alternative formulations. I think the World Business Council for Development, which has done a lot of work, has a program where they feel that 9 billion people can be supported at a reasonable level of quality of life. So there are alternatives, but I think we can't go back to 500 million people. The contradiction is the following, and this is just reinforces your point. We are consuming 1.5 times the planet Earth now. This point was made earlier. 50% overshoot in terms of ecological footprint. 85% of that consumption, that is more than the planet's worth, is done by the top 20 percentile of the wealthiest people in the world. So 1.4 billion people are already consuming more than one planet Earth. And at the same time, we have the hypocrisy of telling 2 billion poor people, yes, we're going to raise your standards of living. So clearly, the present value system, the production system, the consumption system will not tolerate 9 billion people living at that high level. So I think your formulation is very helpful, and let us see how other people can contribute to that to give a simple but clear message what this prize is trying to encourage. Thank you. The next person is Basaram Nicolescu.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I will raise 3 questions, 3 aspects. First one, in the morning and just now, a word appeared again and again, transdisciplinary. And I think that is a very, I fully agree on that, to have a transdisciplinary prize, because this will solve the problem of the originality of the prize. What? We have multidisciplinary prizes, like very prestigious prize of Catalonian government. It's a very high prize, the level of Nobel Prize in money, and very prestigious. There is interdisciplinary. For example, Templeton Foundation has a prize which is higher as money than the Nobel Prize. And it's very prestigious. So I think we'll be the first, and I think that would be a very nice solution for originality of the prize. Second aspect I would like to raise. I think that the will of the philanthropist has also to be respected. Philanthropist, Mr. Youssef, expressed in preliminary conversations for this meeting, the will for something new, completely new, not known before. Now, this puts problem, serious problem for us, because good problem, in the sense that we can concentrate on the known things and look for achievements and so on. We can concentrate on unknown things. The unknown, of course, has risks. It's risk-taking, but it can be very, very rewarding. If you invent, for example, a new theory like Einstein did, or like quantum physics, or completely unknown, but or something which revolutionized everything in physics. So I think a risk problem has to be present. What means that? It means that we have to renounce to the idea of measurable things. Measurable things are good for known things, not for known. Can be measured after that by the effects of this, what will bring. So I think it's very important also in the discussion about sustainability, because sustainability often takes an existing system, which can be bad in itself, and has to make it sustainable. Can be a bad thing if a bad system becomes sustainable. So what I try to express is perhaps this prize can be for new ways of thinking, new ways of rephrasing problems, new ways of not solving, but approaching problems of evolution of humanity. So I arrived at my third item. I think that the main criteria I express like that would be not formulating answers, because if we here, or selection rules and so on, will formulate answers to the question, every of us will postulate for the prize. So I think we have to limit ourselves to something much deeper, in fact, to formulate questions, the right questions. Sometimes right questions can be much more difficult than giving answers. So what right questions? The right question would be, what serves today the evolution of humanity? Definitely an exploration to discover new questions, because, like I said in the morning, and I was very impressed, I don't know if you said or somebody else said, we have everything now to solve the problem. Technology, money, system of the world, everything. But doesn't work. Why? And I think that is a basic question. Why doesn't it work? So I would say that this criterion will be the questions we select. 1, 2, 3 must be not a very big number, must be 7, must be 10, no more. Will become like teams, which for exploration of the good candidates for this prize. In terms of questions, they have to answer, to present them. So for that, I finish my intervention with a concrete proposal. I propose that, if possible, to organize a 2-3 days workshop for the people who are here, or people who will become members of the community. I don't know, people who are here are already extraordinary. So to formulate these questions. We cannot formulate now, because it takes a lot of thinking and of work, and it's not easy. So perhaps in 2-3 days, allowing for us time, not 1 day like this, can be 2 or 3. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's actually a very valuable suggestion, because when I saw the mandate for criteria, in fact, the third question says that we should even consider that